Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Pakistan has declared a national emergency as massive floods continue to devastate the country. At least 119 people died just over the weekend, bringing the death toll to over 1,000 since June. More than 33 million people have been displaced. Pakistan's top climate official described the flooding as a, quote, serious climate catastrophe. Floods have swept away homes, roads, and bridges across Pakistan, where some regions have received 600% more rain than usual. This is Pakistan's Prime Minister, Shehbaz Sharif.
When the plane was landing just now, I looked down with great concentration. It looked like the angry waves of the River Indus had spread across the whole region. The flood of 2010 was a very huge flood in our history, but I feel that this flood has caused much greater havoc. There is extreme devastation all around. More than 900 people have died.
We'll go to Pakistan later in the broadcast. In Mississippi, Governor Tate Reeves has declared a state of emergency after torrential rains are causing the Pearl River to overflow its banks, causing massive flooding. In Mississippi's capital city, Jackson, Mayor Chokwe Lumumba on Sunday urged residents in flood zones to pack enough supplies to last for days and to evacuate.
If you are capable of getting out now, get out now. Get out as soon as possible.
Today, the Pearl River is expected to crest at nearly 36 feet, 10 feet higher than what's normally considered a flood stage. The Justice Department has released a redacted version of the affidavit the FBI used to get a search warrant for former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. The affidavit revealed authorities were concerned Trump still had possession of top-secret documents that could have compromised U.S. intelligence sources and methods. It also revealed the National Archives had recovered 184 classified documents at Mar-a-Lago in January. 25 of those documents were marked top secret. Some included information intercepted under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. The affidavit went on to state, quote, there is also probable cause to believe that evidence of obstruction will be found, unquote. In related news, a federal judge in Florida who was appointed by Trump has indicated she will agree to his request to authorize a special master to review the documents seized by the FBI. In Ukraine, Russian and Ukrainian forces continue to trade heavy fire around the Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, raising fears of a major radiation disaster. Over the weekend, Ukraine accused Russia of using positions near the plant's 6 nuclear reactors to stage artillery attacks on nearby Ukrainian towns. Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry says it shot down a Ukrainian drone near the Zaporizhzhia plant's nuclear waste enclosure. Russia also accused Ukraine of shelling the site several times, which Ukrainian officials deny. Officials have started handing out iodine tablets to some 400,000 people living near the plant to help protect them from a potential radioactive release. This comes as the UN's International Atomic Energy Agency says a team of experts is on the way to Zaporizhzhia and will arrive later this week to evaluate the safety and security of Europe's largest nuclear power station. At the United Nations, a month-long meeting to review the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty has ended in failure after Russia objected to a joint statement from 151 nations because it included a paragraph about its occupation of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine. In Libya, at least 32 people died and 159 people were wounded Saturday as rival militias fought in Tripoli. It was the heaviest fighting seen in Libya's capital in 2 years. The dead included at least 17 civilians. Libya has been in a state of crisis for over a decade after NATO helped rebels topple the government of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. Since February, Libya has had 2 prime ministers competing for power. Saturday's fighting was between militias with ties to each of the men. The Environmental Protection Agency has moved to reclassify 2 commonly used chemicals as hazardous substances after a growing body of scientific research linked them to cancer and other health problems. On Friday, the EPA said its move to reclassify PFAS under the federal Superfund law could accelerate cleanup efforts at hundreds of toxic sites across the United States. PFAS are often called forever chemicals because they can take centuries to break down in the environment. environment. They're used in everything from food packaging and cookware to cosmetics, fabrics, and firefighting foam. In humans, PFAS have been linked to a host of dangerous health effects, including liver damage, decreased fertility, asthma, thyroid disease, low infant birth weight, and cancer. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell has warned efforts to control inflation will bring pain to many households. Powell spoke in Jackson Hole, Wyoming on Friday.
Reducing inflation is likely to require a sustained period of below-trend growth. Moreover, there will very likely be some softening of labor market conditions. While higher interest rates, slower growth, and softer labor market conditions will bring down inflation, they will also bring some pain to households and businesses. These are the unfortunate costs of reducing inflation. But a failure to restore price stability would mean far greater pain.
Progressives, including Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren and former Labor Secretary Robert Reich, have warned Powell's moves will lead the United States into a recession. Reich said, quote, "The pain is already being felt across the land. Most Americans aren't getting inflation-adjusted wage increases, which means they're becoming poorer." In New Mexico, a 23-year-old asylum seeker from Brazil has died by suicide while in custody of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Kesley Vile was being indefinitely detained at the troubled Torrance Detention Center as he awaited his deportation to Brazil. The American Civil Liberties Union said his death was the, quote, "result of abhorrent conditions and treatment by ICE and Torrance staff." Torrance is managed by the private prison corporation CoreCivic. Last year, it failed its annual government inspection due to chronic understaffing and unsanitary and unsafe conditions. In Ethiopia, at least 7 people were killed Friday, including several children, when government forces attacked a kindergarten in the northern Tigray region. The attack in Tigray's regional capital, Mekelle, came as a 5-month truce between Ethiopia's military and separatist rebels unraveled, threatening to worsen a humanitarian crisis that's already among the worst in the world. The UN says the fighting has left about half of Tigray's 6 million residents on the brink of famine. Mexico's Truth Commission, investigating the 2014 disappearance of 43 students from Ayotzinapa, reported Friday 6 of them were kept alive in a warehouse for days before they were turned over to a local army commander who ordered their execution. Last week, the Truth Commission called the disappearances a state crime. On Friday, hundreds took to the streets of Mexico City demanding justice for the 43 and Mexico's other disappeared people. This is the father of missing student Hilda Hernandez.
We want justice. A lot of evidence points to the fact that the former Attorney General Jesus Murillo obstructed the investigation. Whether by omission or participation, he has to pay. As a mother, I tell you we still feel pain, and this man has never touched his heart.
In Argentina, thousands of people took to the streets of Buenos Aires Saturday to defend Vice President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner against allegations of corruption. She's accused of defrauding the state in a scheme to divert public funds during her term as president from 2007 to 2015. The weekend protest came just days after prosecutors called for a 12-year prison sentence and a ban on public office for Kirchner. Police fired tear gas at protesters. At least 4 people were arrested. And in California, Governor Gavin Newsom has threatened to veto a bill that would make it easier for farm workers to cast their ballots in union elections remotely via mail. In a veto statement released Friday, Governor Newsom suggested he's willing to negotiate changes to the bill. The measure is backed by the United Farm Workers, which has vowed to continue fighting to expand voting accessibility and farm workers' unionization efforts. Newsom's veto threat came on the same day the San Francisco Chronicle reported a wine company he co-founded with billionaire Gordon Getty purchased a new vineyard in Napa County for $14.5 million. Farm workers have often denounced a chronic lack of protections and unsafe working conditions at California's vineyards. We'll have more on this story with the president of the United Farm Workers later in the broadcast. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.